Hey everybody, Alex Kazor, SteelersDepot.com, back to do another video and give my initial analysis of the Steelers' disappointing Week 2 28-26 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Again, Steelers go 0-2 to start the year, first time that's happened since 2013. I will start with the smallest bit of optimism, which I'm sure the comment section will not appreciate, but Steelers have been starting the season 0-4, or 0-2, excuse me, four times since 1989. Three of those four times, the Steelers have still managed to make the playoffs. Of course, the most recent time, like I said, was 2013, where they did not. They went 8-8. But if you want a little bit of history, although obviously the numbers league-wide suggest you have a very small percentage, I believe it's like 8 or 10% chance of making the playoffs after an 0-2 start. The Steelers have sort of bucked that trend. So yeah, history is just that. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but I want to start on the smallest of positive notes because we're going to have a lot to talk about with this game and how just atrocious it was really across the board. We'll start with the offense. Obviously, the big story here is Ben Roethlisberger with an elbow injury, reportedly had been dealing with inflammation during the week. Apparently flared up during the game. He missed a little more than a half. He came out the last drive of the first half. Steelers didn't get the ball back, but essentially missed a half of action. Mason Rudolph came in and looked good. Obviously, sometimes backup quarterbacks do look good because they aren't game planned for. Defenses don't know exactly how to prepare. Defense did him some favors by creating some short fields, like the second Vance McDonald touchdown that came off the Mike Hilton forced fumble that Devin Bush recovered. But bottom line is, I thought Rudolph looked poised, thought he looked efficient, didn't make any terrible decisions, showed some ability, knew when to get the ball out. There was an internal clock in his head, so some good signs from him. Should he have to play next Sunday? As of this recording, Ben's status is up in the air before this team goes out to San Francisco. It's funny, if Ben were to play, he had that game in Candlestick a couple years back where he hobbled around and played poorly and probably shouldn't have played that game. So you're going back out to San Fran this time, and we'll see if you have number 7 with it. But Rudolph at least showed a couple signs of, core competency that if he has to start, this team won't be, as doomed as it would be when most teams lose a franchise quarterback like Ben. Though, on the other hand, this offense struggled so much with Ben. It's not like that they were lighting it up before Ben exited. And again, you had the similar problems as you did last week, where receivers can't get open, the run game couldn't get established. Like James Conner has, I think, 50-something yards rushing this season. Just some terrible stuff. Not that he had a couple nice runs, he just haven't really had great game circumstance or the ability to get in the rhythm and get on script to be able to really have a good rushing performance for him specifically. But yeah, again, same stuff as last week. You're feeling the effects of no AB, no one else to step up. Moncrief obviously terrible. The drop that led to the Rudolph interception that would have been a big third down conversion instead at least to a touchdown for Seattle. That's a game-changing play without a doubt. So just no one else stepping up. Juju quiet in the first half because teams want to take him away. And even, for example, on the first two drives, you got into a rhythm early, or really got on script early. They had positive first down plays. We had a 2nd and 5 and a 2nd and 3 on each of the first two drives, and both of them resulted in 3 and outs. And it's like, you finally get some production on first down, which is the thing Randy Fichtner talked about last week. They weren't good enough on first down to put yourself in good third down situations, and you still can't move the football. So this offense just looks stagnant. It looks, stuck in a rut, stuck in mud, wheel spinning, whatever cliche you want to apply, it probably fits the way you describe the Steelers offense right now. So, young guys still have to mature and grow up, but they got to do that fast, whether that's a James Washington or Deontay Johnson or whoever is going to enter the fold. But yeah, you're losing the best part of your offense, and the offense right now may not even be the best side of the ball, which isn't saying a whole lot because that bar is super low. But it's been disappointing. Ben was rusty before he got hurt. Maybe that elbow is bothering. Maybe that's an effect of that. I thought the O-line did a pretty good job in terms of protection. Gave Ben all day before he bowed out. But again, just no one can get open. When they do get open, they can't catch the ball. And it results to really just poor third down performance. This team, 3 of 12 in week 1 on third down, 3 of 11 today, Sunday, on third down. That's not acceptable. This was the 6th best or 7th best third down offense in the NFL last year. Tony Brown obviously a big part of that. But what you really need from this offense, aside from guys who can catch the football, is that vertical threat just in general, but more specifically that vertical threat down the middle of the field. All the big plays this team has made, the few that it has, whether that's the Juju on the flea flicker or James Washington last week for the 45-yard completion, they've all been outside the numbers, which has value, but teams are just rolling the safeties too high and taking everything over the top. You need guys that can make plays down the middle of the field the way that Vance McDonald did last year, the way that AB's done in the past, or Juju's done in the past when he's been able to play in the slot. He's playing on the outside a good bit now. So you need someone like Vance to step up or probably play Juju in the slot more. Or really, at this point, I would honestly, just point blank, I would resign Eli Rogers. And that may involve cutting a Johnny Holton. It may involve cutting a Ryan Switzer. I'm sure cutting Switzer is probably the more popular idea for Steelers Nation. But you need someone that can separate and create some vertical plays down the middle of the field, and someone that knows your offense, has some chemistry, whether that's Ben or Mason. He's caught passes from both of those guys, and obviously Ben in the regular season. He's caught passes from Mason in preseason, I believe, and definitely in training camp. So just someone that can come in, conditioned, just went through a whole camp. He's not out of shape yet, and can come in and play right away. So, I would absolutely bring back Eli Rogers. Just try to bring in somebody new, somebody who can create space, because what this offense needs right now are guys that can create separation on their own, not have to make everything so contested and so difficult. And Eli can do that. That's his best trait, is his route running ability. And he can still be your punt returner too, so if you had to cut, hypothetically, Ryan Switzer, Holton can do kick returns, Eli can do punt returns, and life goes on. So you can make it work that way from what happens if you hypothetically dumped Switzer, who, by the way, has 7 catches for 29 yards in 2 weeks, which is 4.1 yards per catch, which is like a running back number, not a wide receiver number. Now, again, some of the routes that they ask him to run, it isn't all his fault, but he's just a non-yak threat. I had 1 catch a day for 0 yards, 4 targets in general. So you just need someone who can create some splash in the pass game, some receivers that can do their job. And so I would, again, point blank, I would bring back Eli Rogers for week 3. That's really it for the offense. I mean, we'll go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb, but just stall it out repeatedly. A total 180 from last year, and it's relying on your defense to make big plays. And, I took some flack for the comment of this defense has been better. I stand by that. I know it's not easy to say after some of the point totals you've seen on the, giving up 33 in week 1, 28 to Seattle. But this defense has been on the field a lot, and they are at least creating some splash plays. They had 4 sacks and 2 takeaways today. And to win the NFL, you need to get pressure. You need to take the quarterback down. You need to create some turnovers. And that's kind of the baseline thing you got to do. And that's what this defense did, despite being pretty tired out, especially from the first half where they were on the field a ton. Because, again, the offense just simply could not do anything. So is the defense even good at this point? No, probably not. So don't misunderstand me when I say this defense has gotten better. But I've seen improvement in some key areas that this team needed to do from year 1 to year 2. So at least that was good. The fact the defense made splash plays is the only reason why this game still was competitive and why the Steelers had a chance at the very end. But obviously, things fell apart in the second half to give up that third and, well, didn't allow the conversion, but they allowed 15 yards by Russell Wilson on 3rd and 16 that set up the game, icing 4th and 1 conversion by, I believe, Chris Carson, was just unacceptable. Some of the big plays allowed, still struggling versus empty. You got Terrell Edmonds on DK Metcalf for the touchdown, which, Steven Nelson was on Metcalf for most of the game and shutting him down, and they moved Metcalf to the slot. Those Steelers don't adjust. They got Steven Nelson on a tight end instead, and Edmonds on Metcalf, and it just, you give up the touchdown. And yes, Edmonds was step for step with Metcalf, and that was good, but the advantage of a corner being in there is that the corner is going to be able to play the catch point better than what a safety is going to be able to do. It's what cornerbacks do. So you probably would have had Nelson at least been more competitive at the catch point, where Edmonds couldn't find the ball, was flailing, and really didn't make an impact on the catch point, although he was as close to him in coverage. It didn't have any effect on Metcalf. He might as well have been wide open. So, just tough. Schematically issues, personnel issues. Devin Bush struggled. Obviously, Chicolo. And I want to be clear on Chicolo, because I took a lot of heat for that, and I get it. I've defended Chick in a lot of topics of conversation, but I was always pushing for a guy like Ola Adeni to play linebacker. I like Chick the way I like Matakevich, is in you'll want him on your team. I don't want him on defense. I think, and I still believe he has special teams value, and there's trust in him and yada yada. But on defense, I really wanted Ola to play, and I said this last week maybe on Twitter, but definitely on the podcast, that Ola couldn't even pick up playing time on a blowout victory, and he couldn't pick up playing time this week. When is this guy going to get the chance to play? And while he did see some snaps against Seattle, the only reason that he saw snaps was because Chicolo got hurt with a foot injury. So, I mean, what does it take to get some of these guys rotated in and give a guy a chance? And Chico had that terrible missed tackle on 3rd and 2, dead to rights, and to miss it, Penny goes for 37 yards. I mean, just those moments, those game-changing plays. The Moncrief drop that turns into interception. There's points on the board for Seattle. That's a 7-point swing. The 3rd and 2, which would have been a long field goal, I believe, that turns into a 37-yard touchdown. I mean, that's like 4 points right there. Maybe even 7 if they miss the field goal. So, I mean, it's just it's just stuff that kills you. And so, I said in the offseason I wanted Ola to have the chance to be the number 3. I know he had the knee injury that probably hurt that chance, despite a good start to preseason and a good start to training camp. But yeah, you got to start making some personnel changes. After 1 week, you kind of sit there and say, okay, execution got to get better, sure. Scheme stuff's got to get better, sure. But let's not make any wholesale changes. But now that you're 0-2, you definitely got to start, heads got to roll. You got to start doing some different stuff at outside linebacker, at receiver, in the return game, maybe in the secondary. I mean, you got to start really, buckling down because you go 0-3, season's over. Bottom line, 0-3, season's over. 0-2, you can come back from. You got to win. You win these next 2, you go to 2-2. The AFC North doesn't look super good this year. Baltimore 2-0, obviously, but they played Miami and Arizona kept it close. You can get in this. You beat Baltimore twice. It takes a lot, but it's possible. But to go 0-3 and you're going to San Francisco, a good 49ers team in their place, West Coast, we know the history there. You're not clawing your way out of that hole. So this defense and team in general's got to make some big, tough decisions really quickly. But yeah, neither unit's good enough. I'm going to write an article on this for the morning. Maybe you haven't read it yet, or it'll be up by the time you're listening to this. But just the lack of identity and the strengths of this team right now. What does this team do well on offense? What does this defense do well, on that side of the ball? What is the strength of this unit? What's their identity? And I don't have an answer for you. And that's sad because this team, when they're successful, they've had identities, whether that's Super Bowl teams of the 09, the great defense, or 05, a great run game and a great defense. I mean, you had those just kind of, in 10 seconds describe what the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense or defense is. You could do that in the past. Now, I got nothing for you. And that's, I guess, common for a lot of 0-2 teams, but I'm sure there's some teams that's struggling that still have an identity. Maybe they're just not executing it properly, or they're turning the football over, or they're doing some detailed things that are costing them games. So right now, just big picture, this team lacks an identity, and that's as bad of a place as you can be in right now, because you got to find that first, and then you got to go out there and execute, and by the time you do that, it may be too late. So a lot of concerns here. I don't want to say the season's over. I know that's easy to say right now. I know it's easy to say, Ben, sit, Mason, the future, whatever. We're not going to do that. That's not what we're here for. That's easy to say. It's easy to say, burn it all down. I think it's harder to say what are the issues and how do we improve and what are the things they have to do to try to right the ship. That's a lot harder to say. I'm sure some fans don't want to listen to that right now. I get that. I get the anger and the hate after a loss. Believe me, I do. I'm there with you. But we're going to take a more pragmatic and, I think, constructive approach to it than just saying everything sucks and burn it all down. But it does suck right now. I mean, I'm not going to deny that 0-2 is absolutely a terrible place to be in, and a super disappointing game on all phases today. Special teams. Cameron Kennedy struggled as a snapper. McCullers, you get the penalty for going over the long snapper like that. I mean, again, point swinging right there. 4-point game right there, because it turned into a touchdown on the very next play to Will Disley after that Myers field goal negated by the McCullers personal foul penalty. So it's just so many plays you can go look back to. Steelers beating Steelers, just not executing, not taking care of their own business. Just bad across the board. Coaches are responsible too. Don't misunderstand me. Fiedner, Butler, Tomlin, buck stops with all those guys as well. So I don't want to leave them out. But I thought today was a little more player focused than necessarily was scheme focused as I thought it was in week 1. But we're splitting hairs at that point. Okay, if I had this video go too long, I'm sure people don't want to listen to a 20-minute video about an 0-2 loss when you're pissed off. But again, I appreciate that. I am too. We'll look at this game. We'll try to see exactly what went wrong and where this team can improve, which unfortunately is in essentially every area right now. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Whether you're listening on YouTube, following me on Twitter at Alex_Gazor, or following the site SteelersDepot.com. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.